There was a time when seeing these logos pop up on screen was exciting to me. Being responsible for numerous video games I played, as well as some of my favorite movies growing up within the Star Wars universe and out, I held great reverence for almost anything Lucas Studios was involved in. But not everything from your childhood ages well, unfortunately. I love the prequel trilogy, and even now I'm able to enjoy them for what they are. But what they are pretty bad films. The dialogue is clunky.
I don't like sand.
The CGI even at the time wasn't that great. And as a whole, they're just poorly executed. However, these films did expand upon the Star Wars cinematic universe with new planets, environments, races, situations, and issues, as well as providing more information and backstory on already established characters without assassinating them, unlike Disney's sequel trilogy. There's an overarching story within the prequels that one is able to understand how it got from point A to point B, which is also something that can't be said about the sequel trilogy. I couldn't tell you how, why, or what was going on in those films. Those movies did succeed in creating quite the rift within the Star Wars community. The Last Jedi is in most people's mind what killed the franchise. Loved by some, for whatever reason, only fans of that movie were excited for what was to come next. And they ended up hating the result. With The Rise of Skywalker about to hit the big screen, Disney dropped the first episode of The Mandalorian a month before. And people loved it. I will admit, it had me excited at first. It seemed to have captured the aesthetic and atmosphere of the original trilogy, using more practical effects than CGI, and the concept of a grittier show within the Star Wars universe about a Mandalorian bounty hunter/mercenary that seemed morally gray was an interesting and fresh take.
Too bad that isn't what we got.
This show explains literally nothing. Insignificant side quest after insignificant side quest, only adding further questions that are never answered. What drives Jar Jar Din to make the choices he makes exactly?
Don't ask questions you aren't prepared to handle the answer to.
Look at the spooky ATST. Isn't that cool? Look how cute Grungle is. And it's only made worse with the second season, which is filled with nothing but hollow, key-jingling nostalgia bait and some of the most blatant and literal use of plot armor that I've ever seen. Like, what is happening? How? But in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, I guess, as everyone treats Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni like they're the second coming of Lucas, and praise them for this superficial mess. I would like to be understanding of the reception of this show, especially after the troglodyte excrement that is the sequel trilogy, and I would like to push all the blame on the current state of Star Wars on Disney, but I simply can't. It seems that the majority of Star Wars fans care less about a well-written story, and more about seeing what is familiar to them. Why would Disney bother putting in the effort to make something new and decent when they can shit out the rotting corpses of better films and characters and ham-fistedly smash them into whatever abomination they put out next? No rhyme or reason as to why or how it's relevant will be given, but the fan base will eat that cringy shit up, which is the equivalent of walking through the desert for 3 days, asking the first person you stumble across for water, and being content with them spitting in your mouth instead.
This is the way.
Which brings us to their latest abortion. Creating a show based on a character who was established in the original trilogy as the most skilled, resourceful, and feared bounty hunter in the galaxy, anyone would have assumed that we would get a show that was rather calculating and brutal.
You were wrong!
At the end of Mandalorian Season 2, we see Boba and Fennec slaughter everyone in Jabba's palace and kill Bib Fortuna, who I guess was still alive, claiming Jabba's throne. I can't wait to know why. So Boba wants to rule over Tatooine for no fucking reason. The show begins with Boba in a bacta-tank, which they use as a flashback exposition tool to quote-unquote explain how he escaped the Sarlacc pit, how he lost his armor.
My parts are showing. My goodness.
How he got his dumbass stick, what he was doing prior to getting his armor back, and how him and Fennec are now buds.
I was rescued by the Sand People. They took me in, treated me as one of their own.
Yep, the Sand People are so nice, there's no evidence of the contrary anywhere.
Every day they came in and tortured her a bit more, prodding her with sharp spears, slicing her body or beating her with the blunt shafts and short whips.
Right.
Boba saves Fennec. Why? Who knows? Who cares? I guess they thought we wanted to see more of that nothing burger of a character. Which brings us up to date. No more cringy flashbacks.
Like a bantha.
He proceeds to become the worst crime lord in and out of fiction, allowing people to disrespect him and even try to kill him without repercussion.
Hard feelings.
They wrote him to be an absolute moron.
I'm confused.
He wants you to pay him.
What? I'm the crime lord. He's supposed to pay me. I'm confused. I'm confused.
I was hoping not to say as much as I have already in the first 2 episodes. I speak far too much. In fact, in the beginning, I was trying to get past my lines on to Ming Na. And I always say, excuse me, director, I really feel that Ming Na should say these lines because I want to stay mysterious. Right. I want to stay quiet.
Much like Mark Hamill's treatment in The Last Jedi, these actors had a better understanding of their characters than the writers and director did. Obviously, this isn't news to anyone. They've been shitting on this franchise for years. I'm just frustrated. He is barely a character in his own show. There's 2 episodes where he just fucks off and has 12 seconds of screen time to remind you it's still his show. All the while, they let Mando take you on the most empty and boring nostalgia-ridden roller coaster Favreau and Filoni could conjure. Because that's what the fans want. And apparently they can't even keep track of their own show. Mando's talking to the blacksmith lady Mandalorian, who states it's forbidden to have weapons made of Beskar, because Beskar can only be used to make armor.
I shall use the excess to forge whistling birds. The dark saber is a more noble weapon for you to wield.
How can the creators of this show be this stupid? We get a big old chungus of an episode that tickles your nutsack with R2-D2, the orange one, and Luke training Grungle, and by training, I mean shooting him with lasers and having him make decisions on shit he can't understand. Just further shitting on Luke's legacy, huh? You don't think you've done enough damage? And just when you thought you couldn't come anymore, say hello to Gumby. Filoni makes his cartoon Star Wars characters live-action Star Wars characters, and that's enough for people to say he's a good storyteller. After things happen, stuff happens, and then more stuff followed by more things. And that person exploded. Why should I care exactly? It all comes to a head where Boba and his motley crew of shitheads defend the city from the rival gang, who wants Tatooine so they can cartel something called spice through it, which per Google is an illicit medicinal substance that is mined and turned into a recreational drug. So the Star Wars equivalent of pot. Okay. Some Skeletor droids show up and start fucking up the good guys. Boba fucks off to not get his spaceship, but to get the fucking Rancor, and proceeds to destroy the town that he's defending. The Rancor destroys the droids because they conveniently stop shooting. Grungle comes back to Pedro. Boba fights Gumby. And wins. The end.
You guys have officially made me lose my marbles!
This show is incredibly frustrating and disrespectful to the character of Boba Fett.
No disintegrations.
We're never going to get a well-written story as long as Disney owns Star Wars, and this is because of the fans' reaction to Mandalorian Season 2. Fucking 10-year-olds could have written the plot to this show, and if you think that this is quality Star Wars content, then you should be embarrassed.
I'm confused.
Like a panther.